For 3 years, I thought I was happily married. Then one Sunday afternoon, I learned my in-laws had secretly hated me because of a lie my husband made up. And when I finally exposed him, his own family started turning against him, one by one. My name is Rachel, and I need to tell you what happened to my marriage. Because even now, sitting in my new apartment in Columbus, Ohio, I still cannot believe how everything unraveled. It started with a text from my sister-in-law, Madison. We were not particularly close, but she had always been kind to me at family gatherings. The message was simple: "Can we meet for coffee? There is something you need to know." I remember staring at those words while sitting at my desk, wondering what could possibly be so urgent. Madison lived 40 minutes away in Dublin, and she had never asked to meet me alone before. That Sunday, we met at a small cafe downtown. Madison looked nervous, playing with her wedding ring and avoiding eye contact. After about 10 minutes of painful small talk about the weather and her kids, she finally looked at me directly. "Rachel, I need to tell you something about what Daniel has been saying." Daniel. My husband of 3 years. The man I had dated for 2 years before that. The person I trusted most in this world. Madison explained that at a recent family barbecue, one I had missed because I was visiting my sick mother in Cleveland, Daniel had gotten drunk and started telling everyone how I had essentially forced him into marriage. According to him, I had been desperate to get married before turning 32, constantly dropping hints about rings, crying about being the last unmarried friend in my group, and basically manipulating him into proposing out of guilt. I sat there, coffee growing cold in my hands, unable to process what I was hearing. None of it was true. Daniel had been the one who brought up marriage first. During a weekend trip to Hocking Hills, he was the one who asked about ring preferences. We had discussed our future together openly and honestly, or so I thought. If you are watching this and have ever felt that gut-dropping sensation of realizing someone you love has betrayed you, let me know where you are watching from in the comments. Sometimes it helps to know we are not alone in these experiences. Madison continued, telling me this was not the first time Daniel had said these things. Apparently, he had been feeding this narrative to his family for months. His mother, Linda, had started making passive-aggressive comments about women who rush men into things. His brother, Scott, had been joking about Daniel being whipped. The entire family had developed this perception of me as some desperate, manipulative woman who had trapped their precious Daniel. When I asked Madison why she was telling me this, she admitted she felt guilty keeping it from me. She said her husband, Brian, had been uncomfortable with Daniel's stories from the beginning, especially since they did not match what he had observed about our relationship. I drove home in a daze. When Daniel came home from his Sunday golf game, acting completely normal, kissing me on the cheek like nothing was wrong, I felt physically ill. I waited until he had settled in with a beer before confronting him. "Madison told me what you said at the barbecue," I said, watching his face carefully. He tried to play dumb at first, asking what I meant. When I repeated exactly what Madison had told me, his expression shifted. He claimed it was just guy talk that got out of hand, that he was just venting after we had argued about him forgetting to make dinner reservations for our anniversary. "Venting?" I asked. "Venting is complaining about real things, Daniel, not making up complete fabrications about our entire relationship." He got defensive, saying I was overreacting, that his family understood it was just talk. But when I pushed him on why he would say something so damaging and untrue, he finally admitted the real reason. His mother had always had concerns about our relationship moving too fast, and instead of defending us, he had given her a story that would make her feel validated, that he was the reasonable one being pushed into something. I slept in the guest room that night. The next morning, Daniel acted like nothing had happened, making coffee and asking if I wanted pancakes. This was his pattern. I realized create a problem, then pretend it never existed. The following weekend was his mother Linda's 65th birthday party at an upscale steakhouse in Worthington. Daniel insisted we attend, saying it would look suspicious if we canceled, against my better judgment. I agreed, but I had my own plan. The dinner was excruciating. Linda barely acknowledged me, while Scott kept making snide remarks about how some people always get what they want. Madison tried to be supportive with sympathetic glances, but the hostility from the rest of the family was palpable. During dessert, as everyone was enjoying Linda's favorite chocolate cake, I decided I had endured enough. I stood up, clinked my fork against my glass to get everyone's attention, and said clearly, "I recently learned that Daniel has been telling you all that I pressured him into marriage. I want you to know that this is completely untrue. Marriage was a mutual decision, one we discussed at length. I am hurt that he would misrepresent our relationship this way, and I wanted to set the record straight." The table went silent. Linda started to speak, but I turned to Daniel and asked him directly, in front of everyone, why he had lied. That is when he said it. Looking me straight in the eyes with an expression I had never seen before, he said, "Maybe because I realized you were never really worth the trouble anyway." The words hit me like a physical blow. Even Linda looked shocked. Madison gasped. Without another word, I picked up my purse and walked out. I could hear Daniel calling after me, but I kept walking until I reached my car. I drove to a Hampton Inn near the airport and checked in for the night. When I finally turned my phone back on the next morning, I had 37 missed calls and countless texts from Daniel. They ranged from angry "Daniel, you humiliated me in front of my family," to apologetic, "Yo, I did not mean what I said," to threatening "Dang, you do not come home and apologize to my mother, I will tell everyone at your work about your anxiety medication." That last one made my decision clear. This was not just about lies anymore. This was about control, manipulation, and emotional abuse. I called my best friend Jessica, who immediately offered me her spare room. While Daniel was at work on Monday, I went to our apartment with Jessica and her husband Mark, packed my essentials, and left. I found a lawyer that same week and filed for separation. Daniel's behavior escalated quickly. He showed up at my office with flowers, making a scene when security had to escort him out. He created an Instagram post with old photos of us, writing long captions about fighting for true love and tagging all our mutual friends. He even convinced his mother to accidentally run into me at the Whole Foods where I always shopped on Saturdays. During one particularly disturbing incident, Daniel somehow found out I was staying at a friend's lake house for the weekend, a friend he had never met, and posted a photo from when we had visited that same lake house 2 years earlier, with a caption about recreating memories. The message was clear: he was watching me. The interesting thing about toxic people is that they often cannot maintain their facade when challenged. Daniel started making mistakes. He sent threatening texts that I documented. He admitted in writing that he had lied to his family about me. He even accidentally sent me a text meant for his brother, discussing how to make Rachel look crazy to our friend group. Then, something unexpected happened. Scott's wife, Jennifer, reached out to me. She said she had been uncomfortable with the family's treatment of me and had done some digging. It turned out Daniel had done this before, with his college girlfriend. Same pattern: lies about her being controlling. Family turned against her, relationship imploded when she tried to defend herself. Jennifer shared this information with Madison, who shared it with Brian. Slowly, cracks began forming in Daniel's narrative. When Linda discovered Daniel had been going through Scott's phone trying to find my new address, even she started questioning his behavior. The family began fracturing. Scott posted on Facebook about boundaries and respect, clearly aimed at Daniel. Linda tried to play peacemaker but ended up making things worse by demanding everyone support Daniel during his difficult time. Jennifer and Madison started a group chat without Daniel or Linda, sharing their concerns about his increasingly erratic behavior. If you are still listening to this story, you probably understand how validating it feels when the truth finally comes out. Take a moment to subscribe if you want to hear more real stories about relationships and the complicated dynamics that exist beneath the surface. The turning point came when Daniel showed up drunk at Scott and Jennifer's house at 2 a.m, demanding they help him fix his marriage. When they refused, he accused Scott of always being jealous of him, of trying to sabotage his relationships. The argument woke their kids, and Jennifer had to threaten to call the police to get Daniel to leave. That incident split the family completely. Linda defended Daniel, saying he was just heartbroken. Scott cut off contact with both Daniel and their mother. Madison and Brian tried to stay neutral but ended up alienating everyone. The family that had once gathered monthly for dinners was now communicating only through bitter Facebook posts and angry texts. Meanwhile, I was rebuilding my life. I found a beautiful one-bedroom apartment in German Village. I threw myself into work and received a promotion I had been working toward for 2 years. I started therapy to process the emotional abuse I had endured. I even adopted a rescue cat named Luna, who helped make my new apartment feel like home. 3 months after leaving Daniel, my lawyer called with surprising news. Daniel wanted to file for divorce immediately and was offering extremely favorable terms. I would keep my car, my retirement account, and half our savings, plus he would take on all the credit card debt. His only condition was that we filed jointly and quickly. I soon learned why. Daniel had already started dating someone new, a 23-year-old from his gym named Brittany. He needed to rewrite his narrative quickly, to become the victim of a failed marriage rather than the perpetrator of emotional abuse. He posted photos with Brittany constantly, with captions about new beginnings and finding genuine love. Linda, predictably, embraced Brittany immediately, posting about the daughter she always wanted. The posts were clearly meant to hurt me, but honestly I felt nothing but relief. Daniel had found a new target, someone young enough not to recognize the red flags, someone who would believe his version of our marriage without question. The divorce was finalized in just 6 weeks. Daniel sent me one final text: "I hope you find whatever you are looking for." I did not respond. There was nothing left to say. But the family drama continued without me. Jennifer sent me a message last month saying that Daniel and Brittany's relationship was already showing cracks. Brittany had reached out to her, confused about why half of Daniel's family refused to attend their engagement party. Yes, they got engaged after dating for 4 months. Scott still does not speak to Daniel or Linda. Madison and Brian moved to Chicago, partly to escape the family dysfunction. Jennifer told me that at Thanksgiving, only Linda, Daniel, and Brittany attended what used to be a gathering of 15 people. The thing about lies is that they are like termites. They eat away at the foundation of relationships slowly and visibly, until one day the whole structure collapses. Daniel thought he was protecting himself by making me the villain in his story. Instead, he destroyed his own family. I still live in Columbus. I still work at the same company. Though now in a senior position, I have built a circle of friends who knew me before Daniel and new ones who only know me as I am now, stronger, wiser, more careful with my trust. I have started dating again, slowly, with clear boundaries and zero tolerance for dishonesty. Sometimes I run into mutual friends who tell me Daniel still talks about our marriage as if I was the problem, but they also tell me that fewer and fewer people believe him. His pattern has become obvious. The dramatic social media posts, the love bombing of new relationships, the family chaos that seems to follow him everywhere. Last week, I was having coffee at that same cafe where Madison first told me the truth. I was working on my laptop when I saw Linda walk in. She saw me too, hesitated, then approached my table. "Rachel," she said, looking older and tired. I owe you an apology. I let her talk. She told me about how Daniel's relationship with Brittany was following the same pattern. The lies, the manipulation, the family taking sides. She admitted she'd enabled his behavior for years, always believing his version of events, always protecting him from consequences. I lost one son because of my blindness, she said, referring to Scott. I do not want to lose them both. I listened, but I did not offer forgiveness or comfort. That was not my job anymore. When she finished, I simply said, I hope you figure it out, Linda, for everyone's sake. She left, and I returned to my work. My phone buzzed with a text from Jessica asking if I wanted to grab dinner. I smiled and replied yes, then closed my laptop and enjoyed my coffee in peace. Looking back now, I realize the most important lesson from all of this. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. Daniel showed me who he was that night at his mother's birthday. Someone who would destroy me to protect his own ego. The blessing was that he could not help but destroy himself in the process. If you have made it to the end of this story, thank you for listening. Please subscribe and leave a comment about your own experiences with toxic relationships and how you found the strength to leave. Sometimes the best revenge is not actually revenge at all. It is simply living well while they self-destruct in the chaos they created. My name is Rachel, and this was my story. And unlike the fiction Daniel told his family, every word of it is true.